This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Hello and welcome to episode 80 of the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. My name is Tom and I am joined on hosting duties by a man who definitely has both a voice and a face for podcasts. James, how are you?
Rude. Although I will say, it's nice to be the first person that you come to for once in my podcasting career on the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. I don't think I'm ever introduced first.
No, you're special. You're usually last but not least, if I'm not mistaken.
I know. Have that, Mike.
Now you may have been waiting for part 2 of our Heaven and Hell episode, but that is coming very soon. It's likely to be episode 81, but we thought we'd take a quick break from the arguing about which games we all see as heavenly or hellish by welcoming back to the DreamPod a man who is quite rightly recognised as Dreamcast royalty, making his second appearance on the DreamPod. This time we're checking back in with Mr. Luke Benstead. Welcome, Luke. Welcome to the DreamPod.
Dreamcast royalty. Wow, never been called that.
Well, you are. You're the man who is credited with dragging the Dreamcast back online in present day. Obviously, you are the creator of the DreamPi and also a brand new game engine for the Dreamcast called Simulant. And we're going to chat about that, both of those topics a little bit later. But first of all, let's talk about what you've been playing on your Dreamcast or other platforms. As you are the guest, Luke, please enlighten us what you've been playing on your Dreamcast or other consoles recently.
I wish I had the time to play lots of games. So I guess Dreamcast-wise, the last game I played was Rush 2049. It was the last game I got.
That's a favourite of mine. A favourite of mine.
I'm so bad at that game. I played it a few times and just failed miserably. I saw someone playing it. A guy called Mr. Neo. He's on my Discord server. He recorded a video of him playing it. I think it was him. And I saw it and I was like, I have to get that. And I got an eBay bargain. I think I got it for like £10 or something. Just swooped in at the last minute and got it. But yeah, it's a good game. Game.
As I say, it's one of my favourites. I do find that if you play it from the external camera view, the frame rate does judder quite a bit when you go around corners. And the remedy for that is to play it from the first person bonnet cam, and you don't get any of that. I don't know why, but it makes it a lot easier to play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just too busy trying not to explode. It's the frame rate issues. Other than that, so I've just started playing Skyrogue on the PC. It's a kind of low poly flight sim, like dogfighting game.
Yes,
that's really cool.
Yes, I know this game. I had it on the Switch.
The recent charity bundle on itch. One of like 1,700 games or something ridiculous. But I follow the developer of the game on Twitter, and I've been watching it for ages. But it's really fun, really good.
That bundle on itch, I also purchased that, and I found that because I use a Mac, there's a large proportion of the games that I can't play. However, the ones I have played have been really good, and I only paid $5 for it. And was it it was the one that was in support of, was it Black Lives Matter? Yeah. So yeah, it was a bargain, by any stretch of the imagination. And I've mainly been playing games that are like low kind of graphical ability because my Mac can't handle them, because it just kind of the fans just start spinning up as soon as like a polygon appears on the screen. So I've mainly been playing games like there's one called Kids, where you have to like move these little like stick men around, and there's another one which is like Where's Wally, where you just have to like find things, and that's about as far as I've delved into that bundle yet. But yeah, a really good, really good.
Sorry, did you say this was Heaven and Hell episode 2 or not?
Are you taking umbrage with the games I'm playing?
I am, as usual.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Luke. James, what have you been playing?
just before I say, I want to say we're talking about Rush 2049, which is a fantastic game. And because I have to say something controversial on every podcast, and this being a Sega themed podcast and all, I just want to throw this out there. Does anybody do arcade races better than Midway? Or did anyone do arcade races better than Midway, including Sega? I'm not sure they did.
Well,
I'm
no,
not
I
sure
mean,
they did.
you've got things like Hydro Thunder as well, which came under that brand. So
Yeah. And of course the Cruising franchise, one of my all-time faves. Anyway, you'll probably be not surprised to hear, Tom, that I've been spending on the Dreamcast a lot of my time with the recently resurrected Mobile Suit Gundam.
Yes.
As has been the talk in the community and the relentless finger pointing at me for having no life and playing over, I think, 100 odd games of that online now. I get very excited when new Dreamcast games are brought online, especially ones that I've never played before. So it's a really, really fun game to play. It's one of those things that you can really pick up and play, and the matches aren't particularly long, so it's quite easy just to sit down, play a few games without really kind of stressing yourself out too much. So Dreamcast wise, been spending a lot of time playing that online. I wrote an article on the Junkyard just kind of going over the fact that it had been brought back online, really. But yeah, really, really enjoying that. And then last night we played some Toy Racer online. Actually, that was the community game yesterday. So again, viewers of or readers of the Junkyard will know that one of my favorite games of all time on the Dreamcast is Toy Racer for my sins. So it was great just to jump online and destroy PC and Shu and everyone else, as I normally do. Not that I'm big-headed or arrogant in any way, shape or form. So that's been mostly my Dreamcast episodes recently. Not bought anything new on Dreamcast for a while, actually. Oh, I tell a lie, I did. I bought I haven't received it yet because it's stuck in kind of COVID purgatory, but I bought I forget the name of the series. I don't know if either of you chaps know that Japanese chibi baseball series thing that I can never remember.
Pro Yaku, is it?
Yeah, there's an online one. There's an online version of that came out, which I bought on eBay just on a speculative whim, in case Shu has now got his teeth into resurrecting other Japanese games online. So I bought that one and just waiting for that to arrive now. And then contemporary stuff. I'm a bit boring this month, to be honest. iRacing continues as usual. Spend most of my gaming time on iRacing these days, to be honest. And pick back up the latest NFL Madden, because the new one will be out in a few months. So just kind of getting some excitement back at potentially some live sports, and yeah, that's pretty much me.
Cool, excellent. Well, since Dr. Disrespect's been banned from Twitch, I'm sure you'll be waiting to take his place at the top spot with your channel.
I'm going to jump from tens of viewers to tens of thousands, hopefully in the coming weeks. Yeah.
Cool, that's a good mix. For myself, on the Dreamcast, I've been playing a couple of new games, actually. I've been playing After the Fall, which is the latest Quake total conversion for the Dreamcast by a guy called Pip Naylor. There's a review on the Dreamcast Junkyard website. I thought it was really cool. He's released it for both the PC, I think there's a PC version, and the Dreamcast version. They're both fantastic from what I can see, and obviously I played the Dreamcast game, so check that out. It's free, completely free. Downloadable covers, everything. It's basically like a full game just given away for free. So check that out. And Xeno Crisis, which is the latest one from Bitmap Bureau. It was on the Switch and the PS4 and the Xbox a couple of months ago. The Dreamcast version was a stretch goal on Kickstarter. I backed it, naturally. And it's now hit the Dreamcast, and it's every bit as good as you could imagine it would be. Nice. And again, another review on the Dreamcast Junkyard from our co-host Mike. He goes into extreme depth on in the review, so worth having a read of that and checking out Xeno Crisis. On more current gen systems, I have to say thank you to you, James, for sending me for the price of nothing an Xbox One, which was a complete surprise. And I'd never played on an Xbox before. Well, not this generation, before you sent that Xbox One to me. So I've been enjoying the delights of Game Pass with things like Halo 5, Forza 4, and Hellblade. And it's been a bit of a revelation, really, just seeing all these different games, because I'm used to playing on the PS4 and the Switch. So to be able to get my teeth into a whole new kind of ecosystem has been a bit of a breath of fresh air, really.
It's always a good time to jump into a console, isn't it? Right at the end of the lifespan, when you've just got this catalogue of games to play. I always imagine there's a lot of people whose first introduction to a Dreamcast was picking one up for like 50 quid or whatever it was when they finally announced that the production was stopping, and just being able to pick a Dreamcast up for 50 quid and like this whole catalogue of amazing arcade games to bring home and play for pennies. It must have been a good time.
Yeah, totally. And that's kind of how I feel now with this Xbox, because I'm looking at Game Pass. There's all these games I've never played, and I'm just downloading them and having a quick blast at them. And if I like them, keeping them. If I don't, moving on to something else. It's really cool, yeah. So cheers for that, James. Much appreciated. On the Switch, I'm playing a game called Project Warlock, which is like a retro-inspired first-person shooter. And on the PS4, I'm just sticking with SnowRunner because I love trucks, and a bit of PES Pro Evo because I like footy as well. So yeah, that's me. So yeah, good mix there, guys.
Nice.
Now, Luke, we're going to come to you now. We're going to shift our focus onto you as the man of the moment. Your face is on the artwork for the podcast, so
Dreamcast royalty. Dreamcast royalty hashtag.
Yeah, you were on the podcast back in 2016, 4 long years ago, January 2016.
I mean, we were saying earlier how ridiculous that is, like how quickly that's gone.
Yeah,
it means that the DreamPi, I developed it when I was on paternity leave, and my daughter just turned 5.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how long DreamPi's been around now. 5 years.
Sorry, I was going to say that's a good way to sort of segue into what we're going to talk about first. For those people who don't know, you basically created or you kicked off the revival of online gaming on the Dreamcast with the DreamPi. So I think it'd be a good place to start if you could. We've obviously covered this ground before, but for those people who maybe have joined the community since then, can you explain, like in layman's term, what DreamPi is? I mean, people like myself and James, and obviously you, who are heavily involved in the Dreamcast scene, we all know what DreamPi is. But for somebody who maybe is new to the Dreamcast scene and is intrigued, how would you describe DreamPi? What is it, basically? Tell us. It's
actually quite hard to explain in like a real, like this, because in my head there's like loads of parts to it, right? But I guess in layman's terms, it's a operating system image for the Raspberry Pi that you can connect your Dreamcast to the internet with by chaining it with a modem. Is that a good description? Does that sound?
No, I mean it is. It does sound. I mean, for somebody who maybe isn't involved in the community as we are, learning about this thing called DreamPi, it probably sounds quite intimidating. Like, oh, what is it? Where do I get it from? But like you, Luke, I'm somebody who is a big fan of the Raspberry Pi. I've got 2 of them in my house. I've got one here on my desktop now because I actually use one of them as a PC, which is the Raspberry Pi 4. But a couple of years back, PC Wizard, somebody who we'll talk about in a sec, sent me a Raspberry Pi 3 with a little memory card with the DreamPi software on it. And I put this into my Raspberry Pi. I connected it to the Dreamcast with all the cables that he sent me. And within about half an hour, it was connected to the internet and I was playing Dreamcast games online. It's literally as easy as that. And so basically what I want to do is I want to just talk to you a little bit about what the origins of this thing are. How did you, where did it even come from? Where did the idea come from that I could use a Raspberry Pi to basically get the Dreamcast back online?
I mean, it was, I think I said the same story before. I mean, but it kind of started because I saw that people could use their PC, their Windows PC, to do the same job. Like they could connect a USB modem to their Windows PC and connect the Dreamcast to the modem. And then if they ran the right thing on the PC at the right time, they might get the Dreamcast connected. And I went to do this and I bought a USB modem. I put it in a drawer and it stayed there for a few years. And then this was like before I was in the, like, even knew the Dreamcast scene was a thing, right? Like this was like, I'd seen this one blog post or something about how to connect via a Windows PC. And so I bought the USB modem, never got around to doing it. And then when the Raspberry Pi came out, and it was really cheap, I kind of was like, well, what can I use this for? And then I realised I still had this USB modem in the drawer, and then it kind of like snowballed from there. And so when I first tried to set it up, it was really clunky. The way, like, the way that you had to kind of dial, that there was no dial tone, so some games wouldn't work. Some had to set the setting to like blindly dial because it knew it wasn't real phone line. There were all kinds of like little things. Do you know what I mean? They just made it a hassle. And then I was just like, well, I'm a software developer. I think I can fix these things. So I did, and I obviously didn't expect it to grow quite so much. I mean, when I was putting this stuff online, I started a topic, I think, on Dreamcast Talk. I think it took a little while to get going. But then
were you totally new to the Dreamcast community at that point?
Yeah. I mean, I discovered, I can't remember, there was another site as well, but I discovered Dreamcast Talk, and there was another kind of online Dreamcast gaming site, which I think has kind of died a death now. But at the time, there was some instructions on there as well. And I just posted to Dreamcast Talk because that looked like the most active place. And yeah, that was my first foray into Dreamcast, into modern Dreamcast community. Obviously, I had a Dreamcast back in the day, played PSO and Choo Choo Rocket on it.
Yeah.
But aside from that, there'd been a big gap, a big gap of like 15 years between the two, like me getting a Dreamcast first time and me like coming back to the community, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. It's quite interesting that you say that. I mean, you are a software developer by trade. Is that the right term to use? Yeah. So I mean, what a perfect alignment of the planets that you kind of got back into the Dreamcast, and this Raspberry Pi had just kind of appeared as well on the scene, and then you kind of came into it and put two and two together, and then here we are in 2020 with, you know, over 20 games brought back online just from that kind of chance meeting almost of yourself and the Dreamcast community, and you going on to Dreamcast Talk, and obviously people like James as well who play online pretty much every week in current year. It's quite incredible, really, that all those blocks fell into place in the way they did.
It's the simplicity as well. Like you said, Luke, I think the biggest sort of praise I can give the whole DreamPi thing is that, you know, I think retro gaming in general has a lot of barriers nowadays, especially with TVs and outputs and you know, getting things to look good and be able to play them and everything else. And I think it's often, you know, pretty difficult for any sort of pre-2000s console to actually get it working well and get it all set up, as, you know, unless you're kind of, you know, unless that's your hobby, really. I think there's a lot of people who have like a Super Nintendo in their attic, for example, but if they bring it down and try and plug it into their OLED screen, then they're going to be in for a world of pain, probably. And I think taking it one step further, it's kind of like, you know, this idea of going online again is just, you know, at the time, it's kind of, I'd love to try that for nostalgia reasons, but my God, as you just described, the steps you kind of had to go through before by, you know, connecting it to your PC and then adding all manual IP addresses and everything else in just to make sure it could connect to the right game and so on and so forth. And just being able to plug this thing in and literally, you know, go into the game and dial up and it's just, it makes the whole thing so easy and accessible. And I think that's the biggest testament to it all, is that it, you know, like most of it, most sort of retro stuff, if you try and do something, there's an element of effort involved, whereas, you know, once you've got your DreamPi set up, there's literally zero effort involved. You just connect to a game in exactly the same way that you would have done back in 99, but probably with a bit less frustration, as you don't have to dial the number about 5 times and your mum picks up the phone whilst you're in the middle of dialing or something like that. So yeah, that's definitely the best sort of praise I can give it. It's just the ease it makes for, as Tom said, someone like me who does play regularly on it. It takes away all the hassle. The one thing I wanted to ask you about was related to this was the Dreamcast Now side of things, because that was another thing that really kind of appealed to me. So I don't know if you want to talk about that briefly, just kind of where you got the kind of or why you wanted to set Dreamcast Now up as well as a kind of complementary tool to DreamPi.
So that's another thing about this, is another accidental thing. There were so many things that were suddenly possible once we had like a little computer between the Dreamcast and the outside world, right? So not all games would have just worked just having the DreamPi in the middle, because the Dreamcast games expected to be connected to the internet, right? Like directly to the phone line. So your external IP address as a web server or someone outside of your house would see the external IP. The games expect that to be the same one that they have, right? Whereas if you're on a router, your Dreamcast gets an IP address, and that's different to the one that the outside world knows. So some games that work on the DreamPi wouldn't work through that traditional kind of like PC dial-up thing, because people like Shuoma, he invented some programs to basically manipulate the data as it goes through the Raspberry Pi to make that work. So that was like having this computer in the middle gives us these hooks where we can just go, okay, well, to make that work properly, we need to do this. And one of the interesting things about the DreamPi is it has a DNS server on it, which is like a DNS server is what takes a web address like google.com and turns it into an IP address for the computer. We have a DNS server on the DreamPi because the old game addresses, the old domains have like either been like neglected or sold off to someone else or whatever, so they don't point to the servers anymore. But we have new servers, so we have to redirect people. That when a game tries to connect, we have to look up that domain name and redirect it where to the latest game server is. That hook, that little process of detecting what domains are being looked up, was what led to the Dreamcast Now thing. So it wasn't my idea. Somebody posted, probably in the original DreamPi thread, someone said, it could have been PC actually. Someone said, can we do like an Xbox Live type thing so you could see who's online? And my instinct was like, no, that's not possible. And then I went away and I just kind of sat and thought about it. I was like, well, actually, we know what games people are playing because we see the addresses as the games connect. We see which domain it was going to. So if it was like if somebody was playing like Alien Front Online, we'd see that domain. If they were playing Quake, we'd see something else. So once I realised that we had that information on the Raspberry Pi, all I had to do was like map those domains to games, and then I could build a service. So the Raspberry Pi talks to a web server and basically says, the person that has this Raspberry Pi has just connected to this game. So it was another accident. It wasn't like I started at the beginning and was like, I'm going to build all this stuff. It was just kind of like, once we had the Raspberry Pi in place and this stuff was already happening, it was kind of like realization of like, oh, actually, we could make use of this stuff. We could do something else. And we could keep doing, like, if I had the time, we could just keep building and building on this stuff to make it more and more modern, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it was kind of another sort of accident that created this whole ecosystem that now exists for the Dreamcast Online. Just going back to what James said about Dreamcast Live and also other people who are involved in the scene, even though you generally are credited, Luke, with creating the DreamPi, there's a couple of other people who are quite influential in the whole online Dreamcast scene at the moment. So somebody we've previously mentioned is a PC Wizard 13, who he's actually the custodian really of Dreamcast Live. Is that right?
Yeah, he is. He's the motivator of the Dreamcast community, right?
Yes.
He organises the game nights and
we've been trying to get him on the podcast for many a week, and he still doesn't. He still hasn't blessed us with his presence yet.
It's not a week, mate. It's many a year. He will not come on the podcast. If you're listening, PC, I will get you. I will get you on this podcast.
It's worth shouting out the PC. So he streams at least 3 times a week. There's sort of scheduled games on a Saturday, which is Phantasy Star Online night. There is a Sunday evening UK time scheduled online match, which he will stream, and I think he'll stream some other offline stuff as well during the week. But I know he always streams those. So if you are interested in seeing some online games in action, definitely check out PC's stream. Maybe we'll put a link to it somewhere. Yeah.
Now, Luke, there's a couple of other people that I want to mention and give shout outs to as well. There's somebody you mentioned previously, is Shuoma, who is one of the developers who has helped with getting certain games back online. Have you ever met? Have you ever interacted one-to-one online about this kind of thing?
I mean, we email occasionally and stuff. He is literally the one that's put the most effort in and deserves the most credit, because it's impossibly hard to bring a game server back online. To reverse engineer a game takes so much dedication, so much staring at random computer assembler code.
Especially once and 20 years ago.
Yeah, his job is way harder than anything I had to do to build a DreamPi. He really deserves most of the credit for all the games, all the amazing games that everyone can play now. And he's still at it. Like, he bought the was it Gundam? Was it Gundam?
Yeah, Gundam was the last one back online. Yeah.
Yeah. Occasionally, I'll just get an email going, "We're going to announce a new game tomorrow. Can you add it to DreamPod?" Like, yep. But yeah, he's a legend. But they both are. Him and PC are just really. Cool.
I remember speaking to Shu and him sort of walking me through how he reverse engineers the kind of the old code to figure out how to rebuild the servers basically. And yeah, it just absolutely blew my mind, the amount. And then he'll debug stuff on the fly. Like we'll be playing some online games and something will happen, and then he'll say, "I'll be right back in a second," and he'll go and make some changes, and then we carry on playing after that, and something has happened or whatever. And it's just, like I said, that stuff blows my mind. How, like you said, Luke, how patient you've got to be able to pick through all that.
And how does DreamPipe fit into all this? Because I know that DreamPipe has been online for quite some time and is a server in itself that helps to maintain some of these games online.
So you mean the DreamPipe kind of website rehosting?
Oh no, a DreamPipe, PIPE.
Yes. So I don't really know much. I know that they spend a lot of time digging through the Internet Archive and stuff to find these old websites for all the games. I occasionally get messages like, "Can you map this domain name to this server and stuff?"
Right.
I tried to do my best. I need to apologise for being so slow at doing that. So if they're listening, sorry. But yeah.
Because a lot of the things that they sort of kind of host are actually the sort of the leaderboard websites and the websites that were you could access from within the game menus, that kind of thing. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it exactly. So if you so you can, and I love that they're in the kind of the original style that they were, so that you can browse them on your Planet Web or Dreamkey or whatever on your Dreamcast, and it works.
Get your Dreamcast hooked up via an RF cable to your big old CRT and get yourself onto the Metropolis Street Racer website and have a look at that in your big old fonts.
Luke, I have to ask one more question. Sorry, Tom.
No,
and then I'll shut up, Tom, and let you crack on with the show. When you first started putting this together back in 2016, you said it was. I mean, did you have any idea just how much adopted DreamPi would be across the community? It's even now, I've just logged in now, just have a look. There's, it's very rare that you go onto Dreamcast now and there's not at least sort of, 2 to 4 people playing something. I think the other night we had about 20 odd people online, which doesn't sound like a lot by sort of modern standards, but for a console that's over 20 years old with with a niche following. I mean, did you have any idea it would blow up as much as it has? What were your original kind of hopes, I guess, for when you started pulling this together?
Honestly, I don't think I just wanted to get myself online. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted it to be a smooth process for me. I know that sounds really selfish, but that was the initial thing. It's I can make this better. But then when it started working for me, I was I'm going to tell people and share it, because there's no point me being the only person online, right? But yeah, I didn't really have. I don't know. It was a long time ago, but I didn't really think that it would turn into much. I thought that maybe quite a few people would start using this method rather than the old way. But I did not expect. I mean, there's I think 2,000 to 3,000 unique DreamPis have connected over the last 5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot. That's a lot of people building line voltage cable. But yeah, no, I didn't expect anything when I was sat in a room with an old style phone connected to the Dreamcast, trying to listen to things down it and see if it was doing stuff.
I love the kind of the way that it was all a bit random and it all just kind of fell into place. Like I said earlier on, now it's the de-rigger way of connecting a Dreamcast to the internet. It's amazing, really. Quick one, I just want to go through the games that are now playable online through DreamPi. It's quite a list, so bear with me. I'll try my best to read the ones that are actually playable online. So we've got 4x4 Evolution, Choo Choo Rocket, Monaco Grand Prix Online.
So good.
NBA 2K2, NFL 2K1, the next Tetris Online Edition, PBA Tour Bowling 2001, Planet Ring, Quake 3 Arena, Starlancer, World Series Baseball 2K2, Worms World Party, Toy Racer, obviously, as James will know, Pod Speed Zone, Fantasy Star Online version 1 and version 2, Ooga Booga, NFL 2K2, NCAA College Football 2K2, NBA 2K1, Mobile Suit Gundam Federation vs. Eon DX, Maximum Pool, the Internet Game Pack, and Alien Front Online. I've just read those out from the Dreamcast Live website. There are more games actually online and usable with the kind of online leaderboards and that kind of thing, but I just wanted to focus on the games that are actually playable versus other people. James, I think we've played online ourselves together, haven't we? We played Toy Racer, yeah. I was actually surprised at how smooth it was. There was no lag. Everything just worked perfectly. And I was just thinking to myself, this is an online gaming experience that I would not expect on a system that is this old. Yeah. And yet we're using modern technology to kind of circumvent the restrictions of what we might have experienced back in the day, like the dial-up. We're using Wi-Fi and our broadband to get online and play against each other. It's amazing, really.
I know. I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to talk technical, but again, speaking to, I know Shu does a lot of work server side with regards to the packets and how they're sort of transferred across connections to try and alleviate some of the lag. And you do get some issues when you're playing kind of with people across the other side of the world, which of course the Dreamcast was never intended to do. But yeah, it's fascinating. The one tidbit I'd love to know, which unfortunately we never will, is on some of these games, I've got absolutely no doubt in my mind that in the last sort of, 2 or 3 years, there've been more people playing them online than there would have been back in, 2000, 2001, 2002, which is pretty staggering when you think about it. I mean, things like Internet Game Pack, of course, never actually came out in the early 2000s, and now here we are in 2020, able to not just play a game that never actually got released, but actually be able to play it online as well, which is just insane.
What about? I've read a story recently online. I think I read it on a forum post or something about Monaco Grand Prix Online, where the developers weren't even told that it had actually been released. So it had been released by Ubisoft, but the developers didn't know it had been released because they never told them. And because of that, the actual gameplay or the player count numbers were so low that the player numbers now actually dwarf the ones that were actually back in the day. It's just unbelievable. So Luke, it's all you're doing.
Yeah, it's mad. I do like going to Dreamcast.online and just looking to see who's on. Like, that's quite a fun pastime, seeing how high that number goes. Because sometimes it can get quite high, like 20 people. I don't know what the record is. I'm sure PC would know.
Okay, so DreamPi is truly a revolutionary piece of software and hardware, if you've got the right combination of bits and pieces. And as we've just discussed, has brought the Dreamcast community back online in 2020. What I want to talk about now, though, is something that's new for you, Luke, a new project that you're working on, and is every bit, for me anyway, as exciting as DreamPi. This is Simulant, a new game engine, which is basically built with the Dreamcast in mind. Obviously, it's on other systems as well, like Android, but for Dreamcast developers to create kind of new 3D games. And do you want to tell us a little bit about where this came from and what the plans are for it in the future?
So actually, Simulant is older. Much older than the DreamPi is.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I've been dabbling with game dev since late 90s. Even before Dreamcast came out, I've been dabbling with like OpenGL and stuff. And in about 2011, maybe it was a bit earlier than that. I started trying to write a game or something. No, what I was trying to do was trying to reverse engineer a game. So there was a game called Ignition, which is a racing game on the PC. And I was bored one day, and I was like, as you are. And then I tried to see if I could load the levels just render the levels basically from this game. So I started trying to do that, and then I kind of got sidetracked and started just building all these utilities to just render meshes and textures and things. And I called it Kazade GL Toolkit. And I just kept dumping useful code for game dev into this code repository, and it was just a big folder of stuff that got bigger and bigger. And then a little while down the line, I thought, all right, I'm gonna try and clean this up and make this a thing. So I spent a good while cleaning up and making it like a proper game engine rather than just like a arbitrary load of code for graphics. So then I wrote a game, and it's on the Android Play Store still. It's just a 2D kind of asteroids rip-off thing.
What's it called? Go on, what's it called?
It's called Rocks and Space Worms.
Rocks and Space Worms?
Yeah, it's kind of asteroids cross snake.
I'm going to look for it now.
when you blow up an asteroid, a snake comes out of it sometimes. So I did that, and in doing that, I ported this. I suppose it was kind of a game engine at that point. I ported it to Android.
I found it. I found the game.
You found it?
Yeah.
Yeah. In doing that, I kind of cleared up a lot of stuff, removed libraries that I was dependent on and didn't need, and that just made all the code more portable. And then I think I kind of paused all that, got involved in the DreamPi stuff. And then a little bit later, I was like, it'd be really useful if we had a kind of modern style game engine to build games for the Dreamcast. So, and I was like, well, I've actually got this old game engine that I've neglected. Maybe I could use that. So then I started dusting it off and bringing it up to date and expanding it. And I eventually, after much work, got it to work on the Dreamcast. And on the way, I created a Discord server called the Simulant Discord, and that attracted loads of indie devs from the Dreamcast scene. So we've got people on there like Lirabot, who did Rapiri Cycle.
Oh yeah.
Summoning Signals. He's on there. Rizzo's Island. He's there. Loads of others. Mr. Neo, who did Nukequake. He's there. Blue Crab, who maintains the open source SDK, CallistoOS.
Yeah.
There's loads of people. There's like, I think nearly 200 people lurking in this channel now. And over the last few years, we've kind of been building. So I needed to run Simulant on a Dreamcast. I needed a way to render graphics. So I needed like an OpenGL. OpenGL is like a graphics library. I needed a version for the Dreamcast. And they existed in various forms, but they weren't really complete. So I created another one called GLDC, which that kind of came its own little project, and that's what powers Nukequake, and also Summoning Signals, and other games. So
the engine is actually being used in new game development then, especially Summoning Signals, basically.
Kind of. So Simulant uses this GLDC thing that we built, right? And Summoning Signals also uses that, and Nukequake also uses that. But Simulant is much bigger. So Simulant covers everything from like sound, graphics, input, file loading, like just particle systems, all of that stuff. Whereas GLDC is just about rendering stuff to the Dreamcast graphics chip. So Simulant. Sorry, I just waffled on for ages. So Simulant is a game engine in a similar way to like Unity is a game engine. Unity has a UI and stuff though for like designing your game, whereas Simulant is just entirely code. But I've tried to make it as easy as possible. So literally, you can just type a few things into a terminal and you get a CDI image that you can then boot into your Dreamcast.
That was going to be kind of my next question. Like, how does this kind of compare to things like Unity obviously, if you're a developer, then you're going to have more knowledge than someone like me is. But is the plan for this engine to be that it will maybe entice more people to come and make new games for the Dreamcast? Is that the overall goal?
Yeah, that's the goal. So the goal is to try and make it much easier, to give people a kind of starting point. It has a lot of it carries across lots of concepts that Unity has. So you can, I don't want to get too techy, but you can design behaviors basically for objects in the same way that you can in Unity. There are lots of systems in Simulant that are similar to Unity, but ultimately it's lots lower level than Unity is. It's not going to be. We're still building something for 20-year-old hardware, right?
Right.
Like 16 meg of RAM. So you're not going to be rendering amazing scenes, but you can quite quickly render it like some 3D graphics and write some simple 3D games quite quickly.
Do you think the reason why we haven't seen that many bespoke Dreamcast games since the end of commercial production of the Dreamcast is because there hasn't been almost like a bespoke developer-friendly engine for people to just kind of get to grips with and use?
I think it's a combination of things. I think if there is like an off-the-shelf type engine that you could just use, then we would see more. But I think also it's just a hard thing to do. Like even with Simulant, you still need to consider like how much memory you're using. You still need to know low-level programming languages like C and C++, which require a bit more skill. And then a lot of the people that do know C would rather just hit the metal. Do you know what I mean? They don't want something big like Simulant. They want something that's specifically designed for their game.
Do you know a guy called Dave Webster? Because I remember speaking to him a while back. He was creating like a sort of a first-person shooter engine for the Dreamcast, which looked really impressive. It was almost like an Alien Trilogy-esque kind of thing. Is that something that you are familiar with?
This rings a bell. I can't remember it. The name rings a bell, Dave Webster.
Yeah.
What's the Sorry, go on, Tom.
No, I was going to say that I've kind of fallen out of contact with him over the years, but he had like a real-time engine that was basically showing you walking through this space station with like real-time lighting, and as I say, it looked a lot like Alien Trilogy on the PlayStation, and that was really impressive. What I've seen of Simulant so far is the kind of almost like flat shaded polygon game that you created, Whirling Blades, as like a sort of a proof of concept, and some other kind of environmental demos with like mountains and valleys and things that looks really cool with the sort of texture mapped visuals. What are the capabilities of Simulant?
So the only current bottleneck with Simulant is performance, right? So you can build any kind of game that you want with it, but you're limited in how many polygons you can draw before performance starts to hurt. And the reason for that is that because it's a general purpose game engine, right? Because it caters for anything, you can't really hit high performance stuff. There's so much has to happen every frame to deal with that genericness, if you know what I mean. Compared to like if you were just writing like a first person shooter or like Pong or whatever. So, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the website simulant.dev. There's quite a few screenshots there of what you can do. So there's someone on the Simulant Discord called Freak Dave. He's building a game called Dark Space Pioneer, and that's when you see the screenshots, that's the one that's got a spaceship and the landscape beneath it, the kind of top-down shooter thing. He also wrote the cave sample. There's a one of the screenshots of it like a inside a cave.
Oh yeah.
He also did that. So you can see from the screenshots that you can do some quite nice looking stuff. His game runs currently on Dreamcast. I think it's like 18 to 20 frames a second, so it's not like lightning fast. But that's kind of one of the areas that Simulant needs to improve. So I'm kind of class Simulant as like alpha. Like It still has a long way to go, but it's definitely at a state where people can start using it.
And on that note, what's the feedback been like from game devs, Luke? Have you had much in the way of feedback from the community?
So, not really. And and I kind of don't think that many people know it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's been kind of my little hobby project thing for a long, long time, and I'm not very good at promoting it. So Freak Dave is one of the only other people other than me that are using it to develop a game in anger, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So what I really need, and hopefully listeners of the DreamPod will be people that meet this kind of criteria where they are game developers or they have experience in C++ and they quite like to get involved. Hopefully, if people can try it and report bugs and send improvements, and we can make this like a really good kind of doing game engine, which will then spawn more games.
Sounds like a guest article, Tom, to me for the Dreamcast Junkyard.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
We'll have your first draft by the end of the week, Luke, and we'll get it published. The other question I had, and this is purely just off the top of my head. Obviously, Dreamcast Homebrew has been nothing new since the Dreamcast was discontinued. Really, to my knowledge, we've not yet seen a Dreamcast Homebrew game that supports online play. Does this make any online sort of functionality easier to code for, or is that not something that the engine can help support?
It's not part of the engine yet, but it is on the kind of roadmap.
Okay.
Going forward. So I got an issue, a button in the issue tracker saying implement networking or something. But yeah, no, the intention is that you would be able to build a game with networking and it would work on Windows and Linux and Dreamcast and OS X and Android when I fixed the Android version, which I broke. Eventually, yeah, there would hopefully be online play. It could potentially you could cross-play on all of those platforms, which would be quite neat. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Think of Fortnite port on Dreamcast or something similar.
Yeah, if anyone was going to kind of create an engine that could have homebrew gaming and incorporate online gaming as well, then it's going to be you, Luke. No pressure,
I'm just writing an article now just to say that online gaming homebrew on incoming. So you better raise that bug ticket.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I won't get to. The problem is I don't have masses of time to do dev anymore. I mean, we were saying just before we started recording that we've lost the commute now that we're all in lockdown. And the commute was where I did all my development, right? On the train to and from work. I've lost that time, so things have slowed down a bit. So if there are any like C++ devs out there who really want to get involved, please let me know, because there's only one of me and it's not enough.
So yeah, there's the call. Give us a bell, give us a hit us up on Twitter or something. We'll put you in touch with Luke, or you can obviously get in touch with Luke yourself. Guys, I think that kind of brings us to a nice natural end for this episode of the podcast. It's been fascinating as ever. As I said earlier on in the podcast, it's been far too long since we had you on the podcast last. 2016 was the last time you joined us, and that was back in the heady days of myself and Rob.
So I'll see you in 2024 then, right?
Yes, we'll pencil you in for a shot then, when we've got the Dreamcast 3 and Dreamcast Live 2 on the go. Where can people find all of your work? Where can people contact you online, on Twitter, on the internet at large? If you've got questions about DreamPi, Dreamcast Talk is the right place for that. If you're interested in Simulant, you can go to simulant.dev. And then there's a discuss link, and that will take you to the Discord server where there's loads of developers. And then if you just want to talk to me directly, I'm on Twitter as Kazade, Kazade. Fantastic. Yeah. And James, where can people find you if they want to talk to you about your burgeoning Twitch career?
If you do want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at AgileHarvey, and you can find me on Twitch at Bang Average Sim Racer.
Bang Average Sim Racer, yes. You can find me on Twitter at Tom Lee C, or you can find us all as a collective on Twitter at the DC Junkyard. Find all of our articles on the internet at large at thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. And if you are one of the people who still uses Facebook, you can find our group, the Dreamcast Junkyard, on our page. Give us a like. That will do it for this episode. Thank you very much, Luke, for joining us. It's been a pleasure, as ever, and I'm sure we'll see much more from you in the future.
Cheers, thanks.
We'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Please stop this disc now.